flyer design in Photoshop and wanted to jump right in. So here I am in Photoshop with some images from Pexels that I downloaded. And so the first thing obviously would be to have a new document. So you can go to File, New, or as you can see here in the top right, Command N. And then the one thing you'll notice is at the top of the new document panel, you'll see that there's various presets. So one for print, you'll see that there's 8.5 by 11 at 300 ppi, which is 300 pixels per inch resolution for printing. And as you can see, it's showing you that, there are different templates for posters and flyers, etc., similar to what we're doing. So this is a good one. So I'm just going to call it Flyer Design in Photoshop. Background is set to white. Maybe I'll set it to black just to offset. The working color profile is sRGB, which is also good if I wanted to share it for the web. If you're going to send it for print, Adobe RGB 1998 might be a better option, but you should always ask your output house or printing company. And I just hit create, pops up, zoom out, and you can see here is the new document. And so I'm just going to start by adding elements and then text, of course. So start off with this image, nice background I got from Pexels. And as you can see over in the layers panel, while holding the shift key and in the move tool, I just drag the background layer into the middle of that. And then I can close that original image and hit the F key. So I have a full screen view. And I'm going to do Command T on a Mac, Control T on a PC, and holding the Option key, pulling the corner in to resize it accordingly. And then I'm going to, holding the Shift key and the down arrow key, I'm going to nudge it a little bit. So I'm nudging it down. And then obviously I can see that it's showing the background color of black underneath. So while I'm in layer 1, I grab the M for marquee. And then I'm going to select a little bit of the top area and the area that's showing the transparency behind. And then going to go to Edit, Fill, and then instead of the default of, say, 50% gray or black and white, I'm choosing Content Aware and hit OK. And that's reading my image, and using the Adobe Sensei artificial intelligence, it retouches or builds that image based upon the surrounding pixel information. Command D to deselect. And then while I'm here, I do a quick File Save As, just save to desktop. Back to move to hit the F key to toggle back. And then before I add text, I want to bring this guy in as kind of this star of a concert for the concert flyer. And the focus would be to not just bring him in, but first I don't need all of him. So I can just hit C for crop and just kind of crop him down to the profile. And then in this doc, I go down to the bottom of the layers panel, holding Option and the plus for the new empty layer. Pops up the new layer panel. I'll just call it Portrait. So now it's just a empty layer. There's nothing there. But what I'm going to do is choose the marquee and then hit M again until I get the circle marquee. And then I'm going to, holding the Shift and Option key on a Mac or Shift and Alt on a PC, I pull from the middle to get a kind of perfect circle until I get that nice circle shape. And then I just go over to this document, this image. I do a Command A on a Mac, Control A on a PC to select all. You see the marching ants around. Then I do a Command C, Control C on a PC to copy it. And then when I go back to this main image, I'm in that top portrait empty layer, but it has the marquee. I can then say edit, paste special, edit, paste special, paste into. So what happens is it creates a mask, as you can see over here in the layers panel. It creates a mask where it goes into, and then with the move tool, I can click and move it around, which is pretty cool. What I can also do is do a Command T, Control T on a PC, and I do Command minus, Control minus to zoom out. And then with the bounding box, when I did Transform or Command T, I hold the Option key in a corner, and then I can resize the guy inside. So, and then I can nudge it with my right arrow key, Shift, nudges it a little bit more, in 10 pixel increments, I believe. And then I use the up arrow key to nudge it up. I think that's pretty good. So I hit Enter Return, do a quick save. And then the one thing to be aware of is if you're in the Move tool, once you've placed that image, if you wanted to move this circle around, if you click on it, it's going to move the whole image. And even if you do a Command T and you're trying to move it, it still moves the image. So what I tend to do is get it to where I want it to be, and knowing I'm not going to move the contents, the image inside, I will either do a Command J, Control J on a PC to make a copy, and then I right click and say Convert to Smart Object. And I could have also done that on the first grouping, but I just wanted to show you the options. So now when I move it, I can move it anywhere I want. And then I can zoom in a little bit, Command plus to zoom in. And then I'm in that layer. I can go down to the bottom left for the effects, choose stroke, and then it's already kind of defaulting to where I had looked at before. So I move the size back down to like maybe 10, maybe 14. Yeah, 14. I like that. And the position is set to inside. With a circle like this, if you choose outside, I think that's a bit more full. Inside, yeah, kind of crops in. And center kind of brings midway. So maybe outside I would choose for the position of that stroke. And it's set to red, which I think complements the orange that we have here in the background. Okay, so I can move it around. Do a quick save. And then I wanted to go and add some text. So I see in the bottom of my toolbar, black and white. So I just switch, for now at least, I can always change the color. Switch by toggling the little double arrow. So white is my foreground color. I click on the text tool, character tool, and I want the regular horizontal type. And then I just click, and it adds the little lorem ipsum kind of Greek type. And I'm just going to call it flyer design in Photoshop. So even though it's going to look like a concert flyer, I might just keep all the text kind of related to Photoshop. Okay. So then once I've done that, I can double click on the T over in the layers panel. So I just double click the T, and that highlights it. And then I can then go up to my options bar up at the top. And if I hover over the double T icon, a scrubby slider comes up with a hand, and I can click and then just pull that to the right to change the size of the type. Obviously, you can also go to the right of where it says 36 point to the down arrow, click and choose a preset size, but I kind of like doing it by hand. For the type options, there's different options such as sharp, crisp, strong. I tend to choose strong. I think that gives a nice kind of look to the type. Doesn't get too bitmapped or anything. where sharp tends to do that, I think. Now to make sure that it's centered, I can do a Command A on a Mac, Control A on a PC, and then you see that there's these alignment options in the options bar. I can click on this second one from the left, which centers it, and it is centered already, so it doesn't do anything. Now, if I were to go to this other grouping on the right and click on the middle one, that would make it perfectly centered. I don't really want to do that, so I'll just do a Command Z and then a Command D to deselect. Okay, so that's fine for now, but I find some of the lights going on in the background a little bit distracting, so I just turn off that. I can turn off the portrait, and I'll double click layer 2 copy and title it portrait. And I go back down to the layer 1. And then on layer 1, I'm choosing my marquee, and it's set to circular marquee. So hit M again for the rectangular marquee. And I'm going to select this area and then go back up to Edit, Fill, and choose Content Aware. Doesn't all right job. So it doesn't do the best job. So Command D. So I choose Brush. And while I'm in the brush, the opacity is set to 100, the flow at 10. If I hold down the Option key, I can select this orange. And then I can just paint over this. And if it's not strong enough, I can go over to Flow, hover over the word flow, get a scrubby slider, and then move that to the right to like 22. And then when I paint, it's a little bit stronger. And then it kind of blends that. And then if I option click, I can pick up this orange and then kind of paint that in a bit so it's blending a little bit more. So then when I turn on the type, as you can see, it's not being distracted by the texture underneath. Okay. So the good thing is once you've created your text, and I do like this font, so if I double click, it'll show me that it's set to, up in the options bar, Arial Black, regular, and it's 36 point at strong. And then if I wanted to have some subtext, instead of choosing the type tool, clicking, and then typing again, I can just go to this layer, click, and option drag, alt drag on a PC, and then I make an easy copy of that. So then I could pull it up here, double click the text, and then type in something like live. And then I could do a Command T, where I could then rotate, and then I move him up, click on the text. So you'll notice that when I click on any layer, I select that layer. It changes in the layers panel. So therefore, you will see in the options bar, I'm set to auto select layer. So it's an easy way to be able to move things around. So I could do something like that. And then I might want to change the color. So I double click, go up to the options bar up top, and then see what that looks like. Maybe a brighter red. Right. So I know that the red is kind of competing with the red stroke that's around the portrait. But what I'm going to do is then go down to my effects and choose stroke here. And of course, red with red makes it look pretty thick right now, but I'm just going to choose, say, white. Move the size of the structure down so it's like 4. And just once again review what the different positions look like. So that's outside, that's inside, which thins it out too much. Center is in between. So I think outside looks best. Okay. Just kind of like that. Then go back to this layer. And then if I option drag again, I can make another copy of that. Double click. And maybe I'll just give it like a made up date. So May 5th. And I may even put it in the future. May 5th, 2030. So I can move that around just by clicking. And then if I double click, it highlights it. And then I can make it like a different color. It's a little bright there, so maybe make it like that. And I might list the different bands. So I go down, Option drag to make another copy. And I'm just going to make up some silly names. This band, that band, another band, and another band. And then for that, I just double click in the layers panel to highlight it. I can go up to the options bar up top and then choose maybe like a yellow. I don't want it to be too kind of plain, so maybe a yellow might be good. And then when I hit the move tool, I can preview the text, and then to offset it, I can go down to the effects again, maybe choose stroke, and then of course it defaults to white, but I click and then choose maybe red again, maybe a darker red to offset it. Okay, cool. And then I hit OK. And then I can move it around. Now the good thing is once you have created an effect in the layers panel, so I have a stroke effect here, I can always go and option, click on it, and drag it to any of the other layers. So once I do that, option, it adds that same stroke to it. And so if I option hover and then drag it over to flyer design in Photoshop, it adds a stroke there too. And then of course you can go and change any options for that. So I could go back to this one for flyer design. I could change the color, or I could just change like the thickness. So I could change it to, you know, maybe a 5 or a 6. In this case, I don't know if I want to change the stroke too much, but I might give it like a drop shadow. I'm going to click here, and I'm going to copy the hexadecimal color for that. Hit OK. And then when I go down here and I say drop shadow, when I click here, I can select all those zeros and just paste that exact color. And then I can change the distance, spread, and the size. Kind of like it soft and kind of floating like that. And then, like I said, once you've created any type of effect in the layers panel with the effects, you can option drag to any other layer. So I can say, okay, well, May 5th needs a little bit of that drop shadow. So if I hover and then I say option drag to May 5th, that gives that kind of highlight. And then maybe I'll make it a little bit closer. And then for this band, all that, like I said, I can go to effects. This opens up the whole new panel. And then I can choose to add my own drop shadow. And then maybe I'll make that a little bit different color. So I click up here, maybe choose a blue. Gives that kind of electric look to it. Hit OK. Now if I change it to normal, it'll be more like that kind of blue. If I choose it to darken, it has blue tints to it, but has a darken mode, and multiply, similar effect. So maybe normal. It's a little loud. So maybe darken with just a little touch of the blue. And then, you know, you could save this, and as an example, you could come back like a day or two later, and then you could come back and you can double click on any of those different effects, and you can tweak them. So I'm in drop shadow, so I could change the color, or I could change the amount or the distance. So here I'm making a little more subtle for the distance and the spread. And then since this is kind of like the highlighted as if it was the title, I click on Flyer Design in Photoshop, double click, and I'm going to make it a little bit larger. And then hit hit save. Cool. So it's pretty direct, pretty easy, but there is some nice tips and tricks with the layer styles. You can always collapse them to kind of clean up your layers, but you just remember to expand them to be able to go into the particular effect, such as stroke or drop shadow. Make sure to save, and then you could just go File, Duplicate, or Image, Duplicate, and then choose, well, might as well show you. So Image, Duplicate, and then choose Duplicate Merge Layers, and get rid of the word copy. You might even say print at the end, and then you'd have a flattened version. And then sometimes Photoshop will have the word layer 1 for the name as opposed to background. So I tend to just flatten it just to make sure. And then you can go and you can File, Save as a JPEG. And so instead of Photoshop, I would just choose JPEG, hit save, and then choose, for print especially, I would choose 12 maximum, which it's still only 6.2 megabytes large. So, that's the basics of a flyer in Photoshop. Hope that helps. Please subscribe to Digital Art Drew on YouTube for more Photoshop tutorials and Photoshop and photography and Adobe focused live events. Thank you so much.